If the federal government really wanted to build it, they could build it. And the proof of that is they really wanted to blow up bombs in the Nevada desert. And they really did that. And so, yeah, you probably know where I fall out on, excuse me for the pun, fall out. You probably know where I fall out on Yucca Mountain, but it's just fraught with dangers from the get-go.
Thank you for dodging that question.
I disagree. But not totally with Yucca Mountain. It's not going to happen, and we basically missed the benefits window. I think it was political from day one. The state's position vacillated from day one. At first, we kind of gave a hint to the federal government that, yeah, we are interested. And you say that when the federal government really wanted to do it, they do it. I even disagree with that in your analogy. If they blew up bombs, yeah, because Nevada welcomed it. When you had the hairdo that's featured, that the mushroom cloud hairdo in Las Vegas actually advertised it. Little did we know, it's like, hey, don't, that was a mistake. And we screamed bloody murder about, oh, you're going to contaminate the groundwater or whatnot. There were close to 900 atomic and nuclear devices exploded in Nevada. And what were those? Happy atoms that we put into the ground? I mean, come on. And now Yucca Mountain is just akin to the most dangerous substance known to man. And Nevada's already gone down that path, and so I think that's a lot of political posturing. But it's such an ingrained part of Nevada politics that no politician's going to stand up and say, yeah, let's go for those benefits. And the benefits now, the benefits train would be delayed. It just, that was an item where everybody, both sides talk about, we want science to triumph here. Science has nothing to do with it. Now, I do have to come with full disclosure. The reason I'm in Nevada is that I was doing consulting work on Yucca Mountain. I work for both the state and DOE.
And the interesting disclosure.
And what you find is that, the science had very little to do with it. An article, what science got to do with it? It was politics from day one, and the state office is very effective at torpedoing anything about Yucca Mountain. One of their lead scholars said, it's easy to scare people, and once scared, it's hard to unscare them. And so, I mean, Yucca, and I know that particularly on the Republican side, that's seen as a big hope, and I understand the question, but this is where I will agree with you. I don't think we're going to get the benefits. I think that train is passed. It's one where you just kind of will look back 20 years from now and kind of say, oh, maybe let's not look at that too closely, just as when you try to look at atomic testing, you don't want to look at that too closely. And in mining?
Hold on a second. I think the train never came to the station. Honestly, I never knew about any kind of bailout by the federal government if we would start taking this waste and entomb it there. And I would agree with you, it doesn't involve science. Because reputable scientists think that it's very unhealthy, that it's very dangerous, and it's not the place to permanently entomb this stuff without thinking of alternatives. And they didn't think that through when they built these reactors. In terms of politics being at the heart of it, absolutely. That's why it's called Screw Nevada Bill. Nevada has no political clout in Congress. So they selected Nevada because Texas had political clout and the state of Washington had political clout, and they singled out Nevada because we had no clout. So right from the origin of this project, it was all based on politics and it had nothing to do with science. So thank you.
I would disagree, in particular in terms of the science on it. Every nation is looking at disposing nuclear waste. Yeah, you're right. They didn't consider this at the front end of the fuel cycle. But every nation that's looking at nuclear waste is doing two things. And we, by law in the United States, have cut one of them out, and that's reprocessing. And the other is deep geological disposal. And despite all the complaints about Yucca Mountain and DOE, and they have bungled it, I don't want to defend DOE here, but we are as far ahead as any nation in terms of deep geological disposal. We're ahead of the Swedes, we're ahead of the Canadians, we're ahead of the Japanese, the French, who have 80% of their electricity coming from nuclear. They haven't even started, but yet they all talk deep geological disposal. So the science is there. It's just a question of the political will. And there was, the Screw Nevada bill has a particular provision that has a benefits negotiator. And that benefits negotiator, I don't think is from everything.
I'll offer a political answer. I'm down squarely on both sides of the issue and agree with both of them. In terms of the subject of mine,
Good, thank you.
I think that there is an opportunity to get to the mining industry, but I can tell you from past experience that the legislature, there is no industry other than the casino industry that will fight harder against that and more effectively. Those people come loaded for bear to every session. They flood the building with lobbyists, good lobbyists, that'll be a very tough fight. And it has in the historical roots, in students in Nevada history, and it is successful ever since statehood, pretty much. And so it's a tough fight ahead, a worthy target.
Yeah, before the last legislative session, they came forward and said, we'll pay more taxes as long as everybody else does too, which I actually thought was a pretty smart move on their part, because they knew that nobody else was going to agree to higher taxes. So they looked a little bit magnanimous of doing that. I think the plan initiative, the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, their initiative, I think that's going to qualify, because I think people do look at the goal and say, what are you going to do to leave the country, leave the state if we raise your taxes? No, you're still going to come and get the gold. I do have to say one nuclear thing, though. I shouldn't go there, but did anybody notice that tonight one of the President Obama's applause lines was that safe nuclear energy? And it got a lot of applause, and I thought, well, wait a minute, you got to put that way somewhere, and that was a red flag to me that things maybe aren't quite as, we're always declaring Yucca is dead. Yucca is dead. I mean, we have more headlines saying that than anything. But when President Obama says something like that, it tells me that Yucca may not be dead.
I think we're done with Yucca. And probably with mining. And so we have a little time left, and in the time remaining, we can do two things. I can ask this last question, or we can see if anybody in the audience would like to address a question to the panel. Yes. Wait a minute, let's get a microphone.
There's no way you get a red light right, so I'm going to read it. In regards to the ripple effect that Mr. Fox was talking about, headed towards Nevada, and starting with the Massachusetts senatorial race, why do you believe independents, and I know you kind of touched on this earlier, why do you believe independents turn towards Republican policy, and is it merely their shared sentiment that healthcare reform isn't working? And are they taking into account the stalemate at the national level, let alone the previous administration,